He told the cop. "I'm FBI." The response, "I don't care." 10 minutes later, guess who's in handcuffs? It was 6:42 p.m. when James Carter saw the flashing lights in his rearview mirror. The sun hadn't fully set yet. That golden hour glow was stretching across the tops of the houses in Hawthorne County, Virginia. Kids were still out riding bikes. Sprinklers were ticking in a few front yards. And James, he was just trying to get home. He'd left Norfolk maybe 2 hours earlier, coming off a long shift with the Joint Task Force, mostly debriefs, planning meetings and paperwork. No arrests, no guns, no heat, just a clipboard and stale coffee. Now he was on a quiet residential road, barely 20 minutes from his house in Petersburg. He wasn't in a rush. His black Dodge Charger eased through the neighborhood at a steady 28 mph. No music, no talking, just the soft thump of tires and the air conditioning humming low. Then came the sheriff's SUV, no siren, just lights pulled up behind him, quick and close. James exhaled through his nose, tapped the turn signal, and rolled to a stop on the side of the road. This wasn't his first time being pulled over, but that didn't make it routine. Not for someone who looked like him in a neighborhood like this. He turned the engine off, rolled down the driver's side window halfway, both hands up on the steering wheel, clear, visible, deliberate, every movement slow, intentional. The officer stepped out, white male, stocky build, maybe 6 feet tall, black sunglasses even though the sun was almost behind the trees. His right hand rested just a little too casually on his hip, close enough to his holster to make a point. He didn't say hello, didn't introduce himself, just walked up with the look of someone already ready for a problem. "You live around here?" he asked. James didn't turn his head. He kept his eyes forward, calm. "I do." The officer tilted his head like he didn't believe him. "License and registration." James gave a small nod. "Sure. My wallet's in my jacket on the passenger seat. Registration's in the glove box. I'm going to reach for them slowly." "All right." The man didn't answer, just kept staring. James moved smooth and controlled. He grabbed the wallet first, then the registration, placing both on the dashboard before offering them over. "Mind telling me why you stopped me?" The officer glanced at the documents but didn't take them. "You were creeping through the neighborhood." "Creeping?" "Yeah," the officer repeated, like it was a real charge. Slowing down, looking at houses. Someone called it in. James blinked. "I was going 28, just trying to get home. You got something in the car I should know about." James stared at him now. "Excuse me." The officer stepped back, half a pace. "I'm asking if there's any reason you're acting nervous." James held in a dry laugh. "I'm not nervous. I'm tired. Been working since 7 this morning. I'd like to get home." "Step out of the vehicle." James paused. "For what?" "I gave you a command." He took a breath. This was happening fast. "Officer," he said, reaching slowly toward the passenger seat. "I'm a federal agent. FBI. Badge and ID are in this wallet. If you'll just take a second, I don't care who you say you are. Out of the car. Now." The words hit harder than they should have. Not because they were loud, but because of the intent behind them. James opened the wallet, held it up through the window, ID clear as day. Gold badge shining under the last rays of sunlight. Special Agent James Carter. Norfolk Field Office. "I'm not a threat, I'm just trying to get home." The officer never even looked at the badge, didn't blink. "I've got a male refusing to comply," he said into his shoulder mic. "Claims to be FBI. Requesting backup." James's jaw locked, not in anger, in restraint. This wasn't a misunderstanding anymore. It was deliberate. But before he could say another word, the officer's hand moved closer to his belt, and James knew where this was headed. James's fingers didn't twitch. He kept the badge held up high, eyes locked on the officer. "Sir," he said again, voice like stone, "you're making a mistake." The officer's name tag read Harris Patrolman. Not a rookie, but not high up either. The kind of guy who knew just enough to throw his weight around, but not enough to know when to back down. "I'm not going to ask you again," Harris snapped. "Get out of the car, hands where I can see them." James looked straight at him, through him. "I've already identified myself. You haven't told me what I've done wrong, and you haven't looked at my credentials." Harris's face twitched. He hated that tone, measured, calm, confident, like someone who knew the law better than he did. "You think flashing that fake badge gives you the right to run your mouth?" James didn't respond. He just slowly unbuckled his seatbelt, pushed the door open, and stepped out, hands raised. "I'm complying," he said, "but listen to me very carefully. I am not resisting. I am not a threat. And you need to get your supervisor on the scene right now." Harris stepped forward and shoved James's left shoulder hard, not enough to knock him down, but enough to make it clear this wasn't about safety. James didn't react, just stood, tall, no twitch, no backpedal. "I'm not warning you as a civilian," James said quietly, his voice cutting clean through the hot air. "I'm warning you as a federal agent. Every second of this is going to be reviewed, every move you make." Harris was breathing harder now, chest puffed up like a boxer in the ring. He stepped closer. "You threatening me?" "No," James said. "That's not a threat, that's a warning." It was quiet for half a second. Then Harris spun him around and yanked James's arms behind his back. James didn't resist, not because he was weak, but because that was the most powerful choice in that moment. Harris pulled out his cuffs, snapped one around James's right wrist. That's when the neighbors started watching. A woman watering her plants across the street paused, hose in hand. A man walking his dog stopped on the sidewalk. Phones came out. James could see one teenager recording from a porch. He made brief eye contact, said nothing. "Just let the camera roll. I want to be very clear," James said, speaking loud enough for bystanders to hear. "I am Special Agent James Carter of the FBI. You are detaining me unlawfully. I have not resisted, and this officer is violating protocol. Keep talking." Harris muttered, "We'll see what your story is once you're in the back of my cruiser." Just then, Harris's radio crackled. Backup was en route. "ETA, 2 minutes." Harris turned James toward the hood of his own car and leaned in close. "I don't care who you say you are. You don't belong here. And if you're lying, you're going down hard." James didn't flinch. He wasn't afraid. He was furious, but it wasn't loud. It was cold, controlled. "You don't get to decide who belongs where," he said. "That badge doesn't give you the right to disrespect mine." Harris didn't answer, just locked the second cuff. The steel was tight, too tight, deliberate. James took a deep breath and stared straight ahead. The street had gone still. Even the cicadas had stopped humming. But then, off in the distance, he saw the other cruisers turning the corner. Backup had arrived, and with it, a reckoning. The second cruiser pulled up fast, lights still flashing. A third followed a few seconds behind, crawling to a stop just behind Harris's SUV. The door to the lead car swung open, and a tall woman in uniform stepped out, slim build, about mid-40s, with sharp eyes and dark brown hair pulled into a tight bun. She walked with purpose, not rushed, not timid, like someone used to being in charge. Lieutenant Sarah Reynolds. She scanned the scene immediately. A black man, cuffed and silent, standing beside a black Charger, a white patrolman with puffed-up posture, practically glowing with adrenaline, and on both sides of the street, people watching, recording. "Status," Reynolds called out. Harris straightened up, voice too loud. Suspect was acting erratic, claimed to be FBI, refused to exit the vehicle when instructed. Non-compliant. Reynolds turned her eyes to James. She looked him over, the calm, the steady breath, the fact that he hadn't said a word yet. Then she saw the badge wallet lying on the roof of the car. She stepped closer, picked it up, flipped it open. It took less than 2 seconds. Her head jerked back slightly. Her eyes shot over to Harris, then to James. "Special Agent Carter?" she asked, this time with recognition. James nodded once. "That's right." Harris looked confused. "Wait, what?" Reynolds closed the badge wallet, holding it tightly. "You cuffed a federal agent?" she asked Harris directly. "He refused my commands, was driving slow, scoping out homes. Someone called it in. I did what protocol required." "Protocol?" she echoed, her tone turning cold. "Which part of protocol says you ignore an ID and cuff without verifying credentials?" Harris opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Reynolds turned to James. "Agent Carter, are you injured?" "No," he said, "just disrespected." She nodded. "I'm going to have those cuffs removed immediately. I apologize for what's happened." She looked over her shoulder. "Officer Torres, uncuff him." A younger officer stepped forward, hesitated slightly, then did as instructed. James flexed his wrists as the cuffs came off. Red marks had already started forming. "Are you carrying?" Reynolds asked, scanning his hip. I'm off duty. No weapon on me. She nodded again, processing fast. Harris stepped forward, trying to reassert himself. Lieutenant, with all due respect. He didn't identify himself clearly. He was being vague. I was following up on a 911 call. Was the vehicle stolen? She asked. No. Was he aggressive? No, Harris muttered. Did he resist? Harris paused. He had an attitude. Reynolds raised her eyebrows. An attitude. There was a long pause. I want your body cam footage right now, she said. In the car, he mumbled. Go get it. As Harris stomped toward his cruiser, James stepped a little closer to Reynolds, keeping his voice low. You saved him. He was this close to making the wrong kind of memory tonight. Reynolds nodded. I've seen that look in too many men, good ones, bad ones. That wasn't policing, that was ego. James looked over at the group of neighbors still standing outside. A few were whispering to each other. The teenager still had the camera rolling. He wasn't humiliated. He was fully aware of what could have happened and who would have been. Blamed if it had. But just before Harris returned, James turned back toward his car, because whatever came next was no longer about control. It was about truth. Harris came back holding the body cam unit in his hand, like it was a trophy. Reynolds didn't say a word, just held out her hand. He hesitated, then handed it over. She pressed play. The officers standing nearby watched in silence, shifting awkwardly in the heat. The sun was nearly gone now, just a smear of orange behind the rooftops, but the street was still lit both from the patrol cars and the judgmental glow of cell phone screens. The footage was clear. James's voice was steady, calm, professional. You live around here? I do. My wallet's in my jacket. Registration's in the glove box. Officer, I'm a federal agent, FBI. I've already identified myself. You haven't told me what I've done wrong. The more it played, the more Reynolds' face changed. Her jaw clenched. Her brow dropped. She didn't ask questions. She didn't need to. James stood silently a few feet away, his arms crossed now, his eyes watching not the screen, but Harris. Reynolds clicked the footage off and handed the cam back. You violated protocol, she said flatly. You escalated without cause, ignored a lawful ID, and unlawfully detained a federal officer. Harris shifted his weight, cheeks flushing. Lieutenant, this guy, he had an attitude. He was challenging me. That's not how traffic stops are supposed to go. He had an attitude. Reynolds' voice wasn't raised. It was steady, firm, and cutting. You ever think maybe that attitude came from being pulled over in his own neighborhood for driving under the speed limit? Harris opened his mouth again, but she shut him down with a look. Enough. I'm reporting this incident to Internal Affairs. Effective immediately. You're being relieved of duty, pending investigation. You're serious? You think I'm going to sweep this under the rug? She shot back. There are phones on you, cameras. I got a body cam that tells the same story those phones do. Harris was stunned. It didn't add up for him. He wasn't used to accountability coming this fast or this publicly. But Reynolds stepped forward, chest to chest now. You cuffed a federal agent for doing absolutely nothing wrong. You think the badge makes you bulletproof. It doesn't. You don't get to write the rules to fit your mood. James looked down at his wrist, still red, still sore. I don't want an apology, he said. I want accountability. Reynolds nodded slowly. You're about to get it. At that moment, the teenager from the porch stepped closer. You got it all? James asked him. The kid nodded. Every second. Good. Keep it safe. The boy swallowed hard. You okay, sir? James didn't answer at first. He looked at Harris, who now stood frozen, trying to figure out how his grip on power slipped in under 20 minutes. Then he looked back at the kid. I will be, he said. Harris glanced down at his radio, like it might save him. It didn't. Torres, Reynolds called out. Take Officer Harris into custody. Standard procedure handcuffs. Miranda, same as anybody else. The silence on the street went razor sharp. Even the birds had gone quiet. Officer Torres blinked. You want me to? You heard me. Harris's face went pale. Wait, what? You're arresting me. You assaulted a federal agent and lied in your report. That's not just a protocol violation. That's a crime. James said nothing. He didn't need to. But as Harris was slowly turned around and cuffed, James finally looked away, not because he felt sorry for him, but because justice wasn't about watching someone fall. It was about stopping them from dragging others down with them. The crowd was quiet, but the air was thick, like it was holding its breath. Harris didn't say a word as Torres guided his hands behind his back. The clink of the cuffs echoed louder than it should have. No yelling, no resistance, just shock. A man too stunned to fight what he never saw coming. Reynolds didn't gloat. She didn't smirk. She stayed focused. Put him in the back of your unit. I'll write up the charges. Torres nodded, still processing what he'd just been told to do. James stepped back toward his car, rubbing his wrists again, then leaned against the driver's door. He looked across the street. The woman with the hose was still standing in place, frozen like a statue. The man walking the dog had pulled out his phone too. This wasn't just another traffic stop gone wrong. It was something else now. It was being seen. Reynolds came over to James, her hands behind her back, her posture professional. I'm sorry, Agent Carter. No excuses. What happened shouldn't have happened. James gave a tight nod. I appreciate that. But let's not pretend this is rare. Reynolds didn't flinch. It's not. But today, somebody saw it. That matters. They stood there in the fading light for a moment, the tension still buzzing around them like leftover heat after a fire. Do you want to file an internal complaint? Or have the Bureau handle it directly? She asked. I'll go through Bureau channels, James said. But I want full access to the footage, his, yours, all of it. You'll have it, she said, already secured and backed up. He nodded again, then tilted his head slightly. You mind if I see the clip one more time? From your angle? She hesitated for a beat, then tapped her body cam and pulled it up. The small screen glowed between them. There it was, him behind the wheel, calm, controlled, offering his ID, staying level, even as Harris's voice rose. Officer, I'm a federal agent. You think I care who you say you are? Out of the car, now. This is a mistake. Get your hands where I can see them. James watched it like he was watching someone else, like he was looking through a two-way mirror at a version of himself who didn't flinch, didn't curse, didn't move wrong, even when every inch of him wanted to. Then came the part where Harris cuffed him, that sound, click, click. He closed his eyes for a second, just breathing. Mind sending that to me? He asked. Reynolds nodded. Already did. Then a voice spoke up from behind them. You were real composed, man. James turned. It was the teenager, mid-teens, maybe 16, still holding the phone, still recording. You didn't yell, didn't swing, didn't even flinch. I shouldn't have to, James replied. The kid looked down. If it was me, I don't know if I could have kept my cool like that. James stepped forward, quiet but serious. You don't have to prove you're calm to stay alive. That's not a rule, that's survival. But the truth, sometimes staying alive does mean staying calm. The boy nodded, but his eyes showed something else, fear, admiration, a little anger too. What's your name? James asked. Ethan. Well, Ethan, keep that video safe. Not for me. For you. He nodded again, eyes wide now. Yes, sir. James turned back to his car, placing his hand on the roof like he needed to feel something solid under his palm. But before he could climb in, Reynolds called out one more time. Because the night wasn't over yet, James turned toward her slowly, eyebrows raised. She wasn't walking over this time. She was standing by the hood of her patrol car, voice steady and clear. Before you go, Reynolds said, I need a formal witness statement. You want to do it here or at the station? James glanced down the block. Some of the neighbors were starting to drift back inside, but a few still lingered, watching, waiting. Ethan was still standing near the curb, thumbs dancing across his phone screen, probably uploading the video already. I'll come by tomorrow, James said. Right. Now. I just want to go home. Reynolds nodded. No pushback. Understood. He turned toward the charger and opened the door. But just before he got in, he looked back. You think anything will actually happen to him? Reynolds didn't answer right away. She crossed her arms. I can't promise discipline, she said, but tonight I can promise truth. And sometimes that's how accountability starts. He considered that not satisfaction, but reality. As he sat behind the wheel, she added one last thing. For what it's worth, thank you for keeping your cool, for setting the bar higher than he ever deserved. James just nodded. I didn't do it for him. He shut the door, started the engine, and eased away from the curb. The sun was gone now, Streetlights were flickering on one by one, but he didn't drive fast, just rolled down the window, let the air hit his face, and drove back toward Petersburg, with wrists sore and mind sharper than ever. Back at the scene, Reynolds watched his car disappear down the block. She turned back to Harris, who was now sitting in the back of Torres's cruiser, red-faced, still stunned. His mouth moved, but nothing came out, like he was just now understanding that the badge on his chest didn't give him immunity. Reynolds stepped up to the door. "You're being charged with unlawful detainment, excessive use of force, and failure to follow lawful identification protocol." He looked at her like he didn't hear the words right. "Come on, Sarah. You're not seriously charging me." She stared at him. "You think you're above this? I made a call based on behavior. I thought he was lying." "You didn't think at all," she snapped. "You didn't pause, didn't check, didn't look at the ID he offered you, because you weren't interested in truth. You were interested in control." He laughed bitterly. "So now I'm the bad guy?" "No," she said. "You're the one who thought the rules were only there for other people." She stepped back, tapped the window, and turned toward Torres. "Take him in." As the cruiser pulled away, a few neighbors clapped, just 2 or 3, slow and hesitant, but real, not for the arrest, but for the fact that someone finally saw something and actually did something about it. Ethan walked up beside her, staring after the car. "Think he'll lose his badge?" Reynolds looked down at the kid. "Depends on who's watching." He nodded, still holding the phone. "They're watching now." She didn't say anything, just nodded once and walked back toward her unit. The next morning, James's inbox was full messages from bureau officials, a couple reporters, internal affairs. People wanted statements, details, sound bites, but James didn't answer right away. Instead, he sat at his kitchen table with a black coffee and watched Ethan's video on loop, the way Harris barked orders, the way James stayed composed, the way Reynolds stepped in and stopped it, not paused it, not postponed it, stopped it. He turned off the screen and looked out the window. Justice wasn't always loud. Sometimes it was just someone showing up and doing the damn job. If you're watching this and thinking, "That could have been me," you're not wrong. Situations like this happen every day. But what changes things, what really shifts the ground, is when people are held accountable, no matter what uniform they wear. So speak up, record.share. Stand firm when it counts. Because respect isn't about a badge, it's about how you wear it. And the next time someone thinks their authority means impunity, remind them, real power doesn't need to prove itself. It just does the right thing.